4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unity of Joplin online version. We're so happy you're here. Good morning, Gordon. Good to see.
Good morning. Had to unmute my mic.
Yeah.
Good morning, all.
Who have we got on Facebook? Check it out. I'm not as multitask.
Sorry, my cursor went over to my other screen, so I couldn't unmute my mic. On Facebook, let's see, we have... Some of y'all are in multiple places. We got Jerry, Kelsey, Billy and Shayna, Evelyn, Jefferson, you're in multiple places. Neely's in multiple places. And there's others. It looks like Carolyn. The little circles on my phone with your faces are too small for me to see. I see Steve Weldon. Hi, Steve. And
good. Hi, Steve.
I can't tell who all the others are. Sorry if I can't see you, but...
Well, if those of you on Facebook, just give a shout out, say hello,
yeah.
Give us some hearts.
That way we know. Oh, Jerry Ellen's on there. Elizabeth.
Oh, good.
Katie. Susie. Now we're getting some more. And Stephen. Hi, everybody.
Well, we're glad you're here. And speaking of social media, let's do our social media check-in. I behold the many faces of God. I behold the many faces of God. And you can just get that on your other devices, all your social media accounts. Let people know you have checked in at Unity of Joplin. And we are so grateful. We'll ask all of our Zoom people. I think I took care of it, but if you are unmuted, please mute yourself. As I said, I think I did that for you. And we are going to jump in with our opening song, A World Awakening.
Hearts uniting, all one people, all one dream. Hate is dying, love is rising, all the world awakening. Children of one God, one planet, let the earth and heaven sing. Join the angels' joyous strains for a world awakening. For a world awakening. For a world awakening. Time leaves us a common theme, peace our anthem, all welcome to a world awakening. For a world awakening. For a world awakening. New ideas and new beginnings, that's what each tomorrow brings. Freely giving, we are living in a world of...
What happened? Okay, can anybody hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear Gordon.
Okay, Candy, you need to turn your mic off, please.
Do what?
Okay, Anne, I tried to share the slides, and it says that host disabled my ability to share slides. That's you. So hang on, everybody. We're having a little bit of a glitch here.
I don't know what that means.
Somewhere there should be a setting where you can give me permission to share slides.
No.
Let's see if it'll let me ask. Nope, it's not even letting me ask.
Multiple participants can share simultaneously?
Well, that might work.
Let's try that.
Let's try it.
Okay, I just clicked it.
Tell me when. Okay, looks like it's letting me do it. Okay. Okay, we are back in the groove here, folks. So, good to see everybody here today. And, you know, technology's fun.
It is. Let's see if we can share the slide that honors our music team.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Every week they come through for us, and what a joy. We have Gary and Jerry and John, and Michael is still behind the scenes making it all happen. I guess you guys are doing this on Wednesdays and, you know, prepping for us, and we appreciate your time, your energy, and certainly your talent. And yeah, Gary, John, and Jerry are going to be gracing us with some more music later in the service. Jefferson's on. I see him on Zoom. I know he's on Facebook. He's going to take care of you today. Any questions, any concerns, any prayer requests, reach out to Jefferson. He will get those to our chaplains. We appreciate him and his service to the board. Thank you, Jeff. And I'm going to continue to kind of keep things rolling here. I guess I've already screwed up today, but we'll keep moving forward. And of course, Gordon will be sharing another powerful meditation and lesson with us today. All right, this is our opportunity to really express our gratitude for all of this learning and loving that we're doing here at Unity of Joplin. And one of the ways we express it is through sharing our tithes and love offerings. If you visit our website, which there is a picture of it, there is a donate button in the upper right-hand corner there. It might look a little different this time. We have changed well, we still have PayPal, but this is another program specifically for churches. And when you click on that button, there's a drop-down menu, as you can see, and you can select which category of giving you want to credit your particular gift with today. So for us today, it would probably be the general fund, or for those of us taking the Prosperity Plus class, we would choose Prosperity Class Type. All right, so visit the website and do that. You can always send a good old-fashioned check to the church, not a problem. But we appreciate your ongoing support, especially during these weird times. Even though we're not at the building's still there for us, and there are many, many needs. So thank you. And let's go ahead and bless these gifts together. In a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all of the needs of Unity of Joplin and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. Thank you, God. And we affirm that these tithes and offerings are dedicated to the will and work of Spirit through Unity of Joplin and for the highest good of all. Thank you. Ah, take a nice deep breath. That felt really, really good, you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, just some announcements. There's not much. We're still plugging away. Gordon is continuing to inspire us with his evening check-ins. I love that name, the Revs Ramblings. That's really good. So every night at 8 o'clock, except Sunday night. So we're going to give him a break tonight, but check in on Facebook Live each night at 8 p.m. or enjoy the replay. Same great knowledge and sharing, and the same great impact no matter when you get to watch it. Also, we've been talking about June is coming up, and hopefully that will be the launch of a new class that Gordon's working on, Mystics of the Middle Ages, and how they influence modern New Thought. That's just an intriguing title as it is, so I'm really looking forward to that one. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, anything on your heart, feel free to stick around after the service. We'll be hanging out on Zoom and Facebook. Grab a cup of coffee and we can still have some fellowship time. All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Let's prepare now by getting comfortable in our seat, taking that deep centering breath, and welcoming Michael as he shares today's daily word.
All right. Today's daily word is diversity. I appreciate the vastness and diversity in the world. As I walk through a garden blooming with spring flowers, I delight in the symphony of colors and fragrances. When I pause and look more closely, I see that no two blossoms are identical. I appreciate the exquisite beauty of the garden and the unique contribution each blossom offers. What I appreciate grows in my awareness. In the beautiful diversity of colors, shapes, and fragrances, I experience the amazing expressions of the divine principles of beauty and substance. As I grow in spiritual awareness, I recognize the human family, even more magnificent than a spring garden, reflects the beauty and the glory of the 12 powers. Each racial, cultural, and spiritual group within the human family adds richness to the human experience. Each person expresses their divinity in a unique way. I appreciate the vastness and diversity in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. I do too. And I know that we all do. And that's what this new series is about that Gordon's prepared for us. So I'm looking forward to today's message as well. But before we do that, one of our old favorites is back. I've been requesting it for a while. Our next song is Weave.
Well, are you hearing it?
We are many textures, we are many colors, each one different from the other. But we are entwined with one another in one great tapestry. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together in love. We are many instruments playing our melodies, each one tuning to a different key, but we are all
What is going on?
playing symphony. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. A moment ago, still we did not know our unity, only diversity. Now the Christ in you reads the Christ in thee, in one great family. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love.
Okay, were you folks on Zoom, did you have any sound with that? Yeah, okay. For a while we did not on Facebook. I don't know. Don't know. Anyway, okay, we are at that time when we turn within in meditation, and before we do that, I would just like to share with you that this meditation will be followed by a kirtan, a very special kirtan. You'll be really, I think, some of you will remember who the person is that's doing it, and probably most of you. And just a little bit of explanation as to what kirtan is. Kirtan is, bear with me here, I'm having video problems. Kirtan is from Eastern tradition, from the Hindu and Buddhist tradition in particular, and it's basically a call and repeat. You have a leader who sings a verse, and then everybody else sings it back. Of course, it's in Sanskrit, so you probably won't know the words to sing back to it when the time comes. That's okay. Just take it in, close your eyes if you want to, and really let it get down into your spirit, into your heart center, and you'll feel the power of it. So before we do that, though, let's turn within in meditation. Meditation is a tool, a practice that transcends every spiritual path. Meditation takes me to my heart center. It allows me to focus on that Christ spirit that is within me, on the truth of my being. And as I breathe, I imagine taking in a white light through my nostrils, filling every single cell of my being, and focusing on my heart chakra. As I exhale, I imagine that white light is transmuted to a soft pink that radiates outward from me. Radiates outward into the room in which I am seated, perhaps blending with my family in the room with me. And because there is no such thing as time and space in reality, it blends with those who are meditating with me right now, across this city, across the country, and around the world. In this space, I connect with every life form. In this space, my energy becomes one with every life energy. In this oneness, I am one with God. Perhaps I am seated where I can hear birds, where I can hear the wind, the sounds of life around me. And I know that I am hearing the voice of God. Through my power of imagination, I behold the many faces of the divine. The traditional Christian face, the Jewish face, the Buddhist face, the Hindu face, the many different characters and deities that all represent the Great One. I behold the trees and the animals that dwell upon this planet, and know that they too are the face of God. I move my awareness out and look back upon this home that I call Earth. And I know too that that is the face of God. Turning my vision out into the universe, I behold the galaxies and nebulas, the pinpricks of light, scattered as diamonds and jewels on black velvet. That too is the face of God. As I breathe deeper into my heart, I begin to hear a sound softly playing, softly vibrating. The very sound that God is, the vibration of creation. I hear, may all my creation be happy. May all my creation be whole. May all creation be one. May all creation be empowered. May all creation be equal. May all creation be one. And so I rest in oneness with all creation. In this sacred oneness, I am one with God. I begin to understand what Jesus meant when he said the Creator and I are one. I begin to understand what all the great teachers shared. I am one. Holding to that divine connection, I prepare for a special meditation experience. Okay. Am I back on? Okay, good. So if you're wondering what those words were, they were Sanskrit words. And this is a peace mantra. And it is Sarvasham Svastir Bhavatu. And what it means, you can see it there on the slides. If you can see the slides, I guess I need to share my screen, but not my audio. I will try that, folks. Hope this works. Okay, but I don't want to share the computer audio. There we go. Can you still hear me? Zoom people? Okay, good. So what it means is, may auspiciousness be unto all. May peace be unto all. May fullness be unto all. May prosperity be unto all. May all be happy, and may all be free from disabilities. And this is what a kirtan is. This is a Hindu practice, but it has found its way into Western culture as well. It's interesting how many other spiritual paths, including many Christian churches, are now incorporating kirtan. And one of the Unity has embraced this very largely, as has CSL and Unitarians. But we're starting to see it I've seen Catholic churches that do it and Protestant churches that do it. I don't think I've seen any evangelicals do it yet, but we're going to affirm that they learn this. And it's done in many different languages. There are kirtans from just about every tradition there is now. And could you do me a favor? Could you try to get this on speaker view? I can't. It's so that the Facebook people can join us on this. I'm not having any luck getting it to do that for some reason. Anyway, so that's kirtan. And the reason I chose that one is because we are doing the exploration, the evolution of spirituality. And today we are embarking on an exploration of Hinduism. And nope, still not letting me do it. So Facebook people, I'm sorry. I will get you in as close as I can here. I'm the one in the blue.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So anyway, we are exploring Hinduism. Hinduism is probably one of the oldest religions on earth, practiced by Homo sapiens. We don't really know where it had its beginning, other than it was the subcontinent. The earliest documentation we have for Hinduism is from the Vedic historic period, which emerged in northern India somewhere between 4 and 1700 BCE. And that looked quite a bit different from modern Hinduism. And Hinduism began with various small communities. Each community had its own representation of the divine, their own god, if you will. And an interesting thing happened on the subcontinent that did not happen in other parts of the world, where as civilization began to evolve and small family clans and groups began to grow into villages and then into cities and eventually into kingdoms. In India, what happened, rather than as these different cultures began to intersect with each other, rather than saying, my God is better than your God, you have to accept my God, what they did is said, wow, your God is really cool. We're just going to embrace all of them. And so you began to have this addition of gods and goddesses, deities, and figures that were incorporated into primal Hinduism, into the primal theology, which then was able to embrace many aspects, many forms of God, goddess, and even androgynous figures. One of the other evolutions that occurred right at the same time was the world's first written language that we know of, that is still, it is a language that is still read today, and that is ancient Sanskrit. As that became a written language, spiritual writings evolved around it. And those became the core of Hindu literature, and the core of what would be the oldest foundational religion on earth. It's interesting to me that Sanskrit is called the mother tongue. And really, I kind of wonder if Hinduism is not the mother religion, because so much of what we see in other spiritual paths can be traced back to stories and characters found within Hinduism. So we're going to look at some of those today. The oldest Hindu writings are the Vedic scriptures. And there are 4 Vedas, and they consist of 2 groups of Vedas, one called the Aparosheya, which in English means not of man. In other words, these were writings that were recorded that, according to tradition, came directly from the Creator. You could say, as with so many other sacred writings, they were divinely inspired. And then there are later texts, which are called the Smriti, which means that which is remembered. So these were historical documents, stories from history that told of ancient times, ancient peoples, but also were included because they were teaching stories, much like many of the stories we find in the Old Testament. So the 4 Vedas were just broken into those 2 groups, and then the 4 Vedas themselves consist of the Rig Veda, which is a collection of Sanskrit hymns. We just heard one there. And if you wanted to compare these to something more familiar from Western tradition, you could compare them to our Psalms in the Old Testament. Then there's the Yajurveda, the ritual prayers in Sanskrit. And these were split into 2 groups called the motley and the organized. Really, descriptive names, I know. But the motley just meant that they were unorganized. They're just kind of lumped together. And they were left that way intentionally so that if you were wanting to go into a prayer, a Sanskrit prayer, and didn't really know which one to choose, you just open it up. And whichever one it lands on, that's the right one. But if you had a specific purpose in mind, then you could go to the organized or the defined ones and look up your specific prayer need or request if you wanted. They're also called the black and the white. Neither one is more important than the other or less important than the other. Another group of these are the Samavedas, which are melodies and chants. We really heard one right there. They also include the Upanishads, which are stories, much like the Hebrew scriptures. They're not a Bible. They are not considered as belonging to any one group of people or speaking to even any one group of people. They are universal teaching stories. And then we have the Athara Vedas, which are procedures for everyday life. How to do things, laws not really laws, procedures regarding health practices. That's the difference between these and what is found in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. In Leviticus and Deuteronomy, they are very strict, and there is punishment involved if you break them. In the Athara Vedas, they are procedures, and whatever punishment occurs is a result of not following procedure. In the Hebrew scriptures, there's a prohibition of against eating pork, and there's punishment involved if you do so. There are things like that in the Athara Vedas, but the punishment is the result of, you might get food poisoning because they didn't have refrigeration in ancient times. Just kind of common sense practices. So these are the oldest of the Hindu writings. The writings that come to us from what's called the subsequent period of Hinduism, which is roughly 850 BCE to 200 CE, really deal with the origin of Hinduism as a practiced religion. It is in this period of time that we see the birth from Hinduism of Jainism and Buddhism. Buddhism really is a part of Hinduism. We'll get more into that in a little later. But it's important to understand that it is in this period of time that Hinduism begins to grow from the subcontinent out into Southeast Asia, out into Micronesia, and even up into China and Nepal and Tibet, and a little going west into what is now Pakistan and the Middle East. And as this happened, we also had the expansion of the Greek culture because of Alexander the Great and the Hellenistic influx into this area. So what began to happen is we began to see a merging of Hellenistic beliefs and Hindu beliefs. And these beliefs found their way into the Greek religion and Greek culture, and even the later Roman culture and religion. And the Greek and Roman culture and religion found its way into the Hindu teaching. You know, the interesting thing about Hinduism and Buddhism and so many other worlds, other religions, they were not exclusionary. When they came in contact with other belief systems, they could look at them, and they still do, and they look at them and they say, wow, these are great teachings. These teachers, Jesus and Moses and Abraham, were wonderful, wise prophets, and Muhammad, and so they embrace them into their teaching. Western religion doesn't do that. Western religion is, nope, it's ours only, it's all or nothing, you're either with us or you're against us. It's a very exclusive religion, whereas Eastern religions tend to be very inclusive. Maybe we could learn something from them. You know, because of this, if we are open and receptive and we look at the Hindu stories, we begin to see that so many of these stories are almost word for word the same as Judaic, Christian, and even Islamic stories. We find the same heroes. We find that the heroes in Hinduism all have almost the exact same mega-birth stories of Jesus. We'll explore that further in a few moments. But sticking with the history so that we have a foundation to build from, we move from one period into another. We move into the epic Puranic period, which coincided with the rise of Rome as an empire. And in the East, we see the rise of the Guptas, the Gupta Empire. And, you know, the way we are taught history is focused mainly on European and North American history. And we don't learn the richness and the importance of the rise of these Eastern empires. The Gupta Empire, in particular, was phenomenal. It saw a huge interest in art and science and literature and music that would not be rivaled in the West for many centuries. They were light years ahead of the early Roman Empire. And we also see at this point, somebody has their mic on. Marilyn Wiley, I think it's you. Can we mute? There we go. Okay. We see the rise of the Vedas and the Mahabharata as canon scripture within Hinduism. And we begin to see the birth of three branches of Hinduism. Now, I want to stress that these are not three denominations of Hinduism. In Hinduism, when we say there are 6 branches, what we are saying is that there are 6 spiritual paths. Each one is important, and a practitioner of Hinduism can embrace and engage all 6 paths at various times, or even more than one at a time. So these 6 paths lead to what is called Brahmaputra, or enlightenment. They lead to a release from karmic reincarnation. In Christianity, we say that as we rise in awareness, we are released from the cycles of death, that we achieve life everlasting. Well, they're saying the same thing. They're just interpreting it a bit different. So the first path is Samkhya, which means knowing. It is the steps to knowing. It is the steps to mindfulness and awareness. It is the practice of mindfulness. And through that, we learn to reason with spirit. We learn to explore our spirituality. We are encouraged to explore it. You know, one of the saddest things I see in Christianity is this idea that you can't question whoever the minister is, or, you know, whoever is interpreting the scriptures, the Bible. Whereas in Eastern culture, you are encouraged to question. You're encouraged to explore. You're encouraged to take what you're being taught, but then make it your own and take it deeper into your own experience. And yes, question it and even argue it if you wish. It's okay. So another part of Samkhya is, of course, the sacred writings. To really study them not in a narrow, rigid way, not in a literal way, but in a more metaphysical way, we would say in the West. To take it and say, what does this mean to me? You know, in metaphysics, we say, when we look at Christian scripture, we say, okay, who are these characters within me? Who is Moses in me? What is Moses in me? And that's really difficult in a lot of Western Christian practice because it's discouraged. But in Eastern practice, it's encouraged. It says, yes, who is Krishna in you? Who is Vishnu in you? Who is Jesus in you? Who is the Buddha in you? Who are these? Why are they important? So that's Samkhya. And it's a dualistic practice. It is a dualistic because it involves Purusa, or consciousness, divine mind, God. And it embraces Shiva, or idea, the vision, the model, we would say the form. So we have Purusa, divine mind. We have Shiva, Christ, or the vision, or the model. And that leads to Ankara, or the manifestation, that which is real. So what do we have here? We have the Trinity, mind, idea, expression. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We begin to see where this golden thread that runs through all the world religions is. Perhaps we begin to see the roots of the things, very same things we say and we believe. So we have our Trinity, mind, idea, expression. Another part of that sixfold path is a belief in a personal God. And I'm going to just stress this several times throughout this lesson today. To us in the West, Hinduism looks like a polytheistic religion. It is not. It is very much a monotheistic religion. And all the various deities and goddesses and demigods and all those things we see in Hinduism are aspects of one God, are expressions of one God. We do the same thing. How many different expressions or interpretations about God are there even within this framework we call Christianity? We have the Catholic God, the Methodist God, the Presbyterian God, the Unity God, the Evangelical God. And we in the West say, oh, they're all this. My God is the only right one. But in Hinduism, they say all these different expressions of God are personal, based on our understanding. I love that expression, the God of my understanding. And so we see that in Hinduism. And what this does, why we have these gods of our understanding, they give us a personal connection, a personal God, one that we can relate to based on where we are in our soul growth. If we are in that place of Catholicism, we have our God. If we are in the Methodist or the Presbyterian or the Evangelical or the Unity, we have our God. And it's all the same. We know that. And the Hindus know it too, by having all these different representations. But through it all runs wholeness. And that is really what leads to what's called nirvana, is embracing the allness that God is. Another path is called jnana. and that is a development of an epistemology. It's the justification of belief from opinion. It is, we would say in unity, it's this difference between metaphysics and dogma. Dogma is strict. Dogma is, you must believe as I say. Whereas metaphysics is your personal belief. I'm just a teacher, just throwing out ideas that you can take and work with. In Hinduism, then, we move on to the Vaisheshika school, which is the school of Gautama. This was the school of Buddha. And it is out of this that Buddhism emerges as a practice. Buddhism isn't technically a religion. It's a practice. And it really can embrace all religions. But the Buddha had his roots in Hinduism, and he had his school, which is Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika is a hard one to pronounce in Sanskrit. I apologize. Vaisheshika. Another path, the last one, is Mimamsa. And this has its emphasis on ritual and worship. And ritual and worship is important. And in Hinduism, it's very colorful and very interactive. I just love some of the rituals. One of my favorite is where you run through and you get splashed with paint of all different colors. It's joyful, it's celebratory. You know, one of the things that I see we are beginning to do more and more, and I want us to do even more, is make our Sunday a time of celebration and joy and expression, and incorporate, of course, teaching and all of that. So those are the 6 paths of Hinduism. And it's not that you do one and then you graduate to the next one, or that each one is distinct and you don't ever explore the others. No, they are all embraced in Hinduism. They are all part of the whole. So that evolved in this particular time period we were looking at, and then that led to the classical time period of Hinduism, which was 650 to 1100, our Middle Ages, we would say. And Buddhism began to grow in that time period. And then you had the Bhakti time period, which saw, unfortunately, the rise of the caste system, which really came about through colonialism. It's not all that ancient in Hinduism, and it unfortunately was an influence of other cultures. Really is a practice to subjugate the Indian subcontinent. It is also in that time that we see the birth of Islam, which was a melding of different religions, really, of Unitarianism, Theosophy, and the growth of modern Christianity. So that gives you a kind of a real quick thumbnail understanding of the history of Hinduism. Now let's get into the fun part, the meat of it. All the gods and demigods and the deities and what they mean. And I'm going to shift our Facebook people here to the other screen so that you can see. And I am going to share the screen so that those of you on Zoom can see it. And it would be helpful to me, Zoom people, if you can give me a thumbs up that you can see the screen. No? All right, bear with me. Anne, can you help me out here at all?
Maybe.
I cannot, for some reason, share my screen.
Well, let's see.
My share controls are gone.
Okay. I have you clicked multiple participants. Can
Okay,
share.
let me try this. How about now?
There you go.
Hallelujah. Okay, here we go. All right, so our Hindu deities, There are many. We are not even going to begin to touch on all of them today, but we're going to touch on the principal ones. And I want to stress again, these are not individual gods. Each Hindu deity is a representation of some aspect of God. Okay? I guess we could say they're equivalent to our 12 powers. Equivalent to the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 apostles, you name it. It's all the same. So as I said, Hinduism is in truth a monotheistic religion. And each one of these representations represents a specific aspect of God. And in many households in Hinduism, everybody has their favorite. Just like we all have our favorite idea of God. And they're all okay. So what happens with this is Hinduism allows the ability to recognize that we all worship the God of our understanding, and that God is simply a facet or an aspect or an energy of one principle. You know, this was a Christian understanding, a Jewish understanding in the beginning as well. In Micah, in the book of Micah, we find one of my favorite passages from the Old Testament. This is Micah 4:4. Then God will judge between many peoples and arbitrate for the true nations far and wide. Each of them will then beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will no longer take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war. And each one will sit under their vine and under their own tree, and no one will frighten them. And each will worship the Lord their God, and we will worship the Lord our God. For the mouth of the Lord has promised this, and each of us, all peoples, may walk in the name of their God, and yet walk in the name of the one God forever. Wow, in the Old Testament, there's permission to worship your God, and the acknowledgement that it truly is all one. It's culture and name and understanding that create these differences. And if we could but understand that, then we'd have no more religious war or strife, because we'd recognize we really are worshiping one God, just with different names. And maybe different characters. But that's a human construct. So in Hinduism, the main deity, the number one, is Vishnu. Vishnu is the preserver, the creator. Vishnu is eternal. Get this, Vishnu is omnipotent, omnipresent. Vishnu is creation itself, and it appears to humans in many different forms. Wow, kind of sounds like God, doesn't it? One of those forms is Ram. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Ram is the male figure on the left. Ram was directly born of Vishnu. Ram is the only begotten son of God. Ram is considered the founder of Hinduism. Kind of like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses. And Ram is the Lord of virtue. But Ram is not alone. Ram is married to Sita, who manifests to humanity as Lakshmi. And Sita or Lakshmi, it can be Sita or Sita, either one, is the very energy that Vishnu is. It is the divine feminine. It is, so thus with Ram and Sita, who usually is identified as Sita Ram, we have the energy of Adam and Eve. The divine masculine, the divine feminine, the intellect and the emotive or feeling energy. The first couple, if you will. They too had children. 3. They had, well, before we get to the kids, I don't want to get to the kids yet. There is also Shiva as a manifestation of God. Shiva means Lord of the 3 realms. And the 3 realms are, get this, mind, idea, expression. And Shiva is the energy of God in all of creation. It is formless, limitless, unchanging. Shiva is the supreme yogi, and at the same time, the destroyer of worlds. Why the destroyer of worlds? That does not sound very happy. You may notice that it's kind of hard to tell in that picture, but Shiva holds a musical instrument and a weapon. So Shiva is both creator and destroyer. Why? Because you must have that yin, that yang, that ability to create and the ability to destroy. We would call it in unity the power of elimination. We break up, we destroy that which is not helpful, that which no longer serves us, that which we no longer need, to make room for a new song, a new creation. And Shiva is married to Parvati. That's Parvati, not poverty, like in lacking. And Parvati, again, is another aspect of the Divine Mother, the protector of life. And together, they had children as well. You actually know their children. Their children are Ganesha and Kartikeya. Isn't that a nice family portrait? I love that picture. It's one of my favorites from Hindu. I just love the beauty and the richness of Hindu art. Ganesha and Kartikeya form what's called the Devi Shakti, or Shaktism. And both represent, even though one is, Ganesha is largely considered masculine, but in Hinduism doesn't really have a gender. Kartikeya does. And they represent the underlying female energy, that creative energy. But that creative energy must also include the ability to clear the way, which is what Ganesha does. You know, think about an elephant going through the jungle, moving its tusks and its trunk to clear a path. So Ganesha goes before clearing the path for the creative energy to move and flow. Getting back to the parents a little bit, Parvati is the Divine Mother. And there's also some other siblings involved. There's Kali. Kali is the Divine Destroyer. That's the one that everybody is afraid of. But Kali serves a purpose as well. You know, in Hinduism, even some of these really scary looking ones, like Kali holding a beheaded figure there and standing on the body of somebody and holding a giant sword and with necklaces of skulls, isn't really considered scary, and certainly not bad or evil, because each of these has a purpose. So you have Parvati, the Divine Mother, Kali, the Divine Destroyer, and the other sibling is Durga. And Durga is the balancer, the one who keeps things in balance, so that it's not all about destruction, nor is it about all about creation. There has to be balance. In order for creation to be whole and effective, there also must be the letting go, the destruction, and there has to be the balance. You can't have too much of one or the other. Otherwise, you get chaos. So Durga brings, I rolled the wrong R. Durga brings balance, order, and dominion over emotion. It's not that we don't feel emotion, we don't let emotion happen, but that it is allowed to flow usefully and purposefully. You could say that these figures are very similar to the patron saints of Catholicism and other Christian paths. We have others. We have Saraswati, the goddess of arts and knowledge. That chant that Tina Turner did there was to Saraswati, invoking art and knowledge. Art is considered so important in Hindu culture. Just look at the pictures. Look at how they depict these aspects of God. They're very rich and beautiful. Invoking of emotion. You can't look on those and not feel some sort of emotion. So we have all of these. Lakshmi also represents prosperity. You know, the goddess of prosperity. Because prosperity is important in Hinduism as well. Some of the other deities that are represented are one of my favorites, Hanuman, the monkey god. Hanuman is an incarnation of Shiva. And Hanuman has a rich, rich story. Hanuman is really about devotion and service. There's a chant, Bolo Hanuman, Bolo Bolo Hanuman. And it's all about being devoted and being of service to Rama, which is also service to creation, to our fellow man. And Hanuman was the epitome of service. There is a story in the Bhagavad Gita about one of Arjuna's uncles had been injured, was mortally injured and lay dying. And Rama is just, Arjuna is just brokenhearted. And he is told, go to this mountain in the Himalayas where this blue flower grows and gather that flower and feed it to your uncle and he will be restored. But Arjuna cannot leave his uncle because he knows if he leaves him, he will die. And so he sends Hanuman. And Hanuman says, I will go, Lord. I will gather these flowers for you. Send me. I can do anything. Hanuman's a monkey god. And monkeys are very enthusiastic, but they don't always know exactly what they're doing. And so Arjuna sends Hanuman to the Himalayas, and Hanuman gets there, and Hanuman realizes that he's got a problem. Monkeys are colorblind. He doesn't know what a blue flower looks like. And he is heartbroken. He so wants to serve. And he prays. He says, I so want to serve, but and serve my hero Arjuna, but I don't know what flower is blue. What do I do? And he gets inspired. And he gets the message. Take the whole mountain back. Arjuna will know which flowers are blue. So he picks up the mountain and carries it back. And Arjuna picks the blue flowers. We see stories like this in our traditions. Have you ever heard this? If Muhammad can't go to the mountain will come to Muhammad. We hear stories of Jesus and the mountains coming to Jesus in different traditions. Same stories over and over again throughout all these spiritual paths. So that's Hanuman. So these are our principal deities. These are the key ones. There's many, many others. But there's one deity in Hinduism that is only depicted in one place, and all it is a round stone. It's at a shrine in India. And it's just a round stone. And it doesn't have a name. Because that round stone represents the one God that all these other Hindu deities and Buddhist deities and Christian deities and Islamic deities and Hebrew deities represent. It is the one God that is the God of all creation that shows up in all these different forms. So what about the literature of Hinduism? Well, the Bhagavad Gita, oh my gosh, I'm running really long. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the key narratives of Hinduism. And it's basically what it is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna right before the beginning of a climactic battle of the Kurukshetra war. And all of this is in the Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. But this battle, it has all culminated in this battle that is about to take place on the plains between two great armies, essentially the army of heaven and the army of hell, before the gates of a city. Sound familiar? And so Krishna is the leader of one of the armies. And Arjuna is the leader of one of the armies. And Krishna is his chariot driver and his advisor. So he tells his chariot driver, drive me out into the middle of the field between these two armies so that I can see those who are raised against me. Nowhere are they called the enemy. That's important. And he gets out in the middle of the field, and he looks at the army on the other side, and he realizes that the generals in front are his uncles, his teachers, his loved ones. And he looks back at his army, and it is his brothers and his sisters and his parents and his loved ones and other teachers. And he weeps. He weeps. And he throws his bow off the chariot onto the ground, and he turns to Krishna and he says, I cannot do this. I cannot destroy my loved ones. What can I do? And so you have the entire rest of the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and so many of these other stories that are contained within this epic is all about the discussion, kind of like Waiting for Godot. It's all about this discussion between Arjuna and Krishna. And this discussion goes far, far beyond the rationale for war. It touches on ethical dilemmas that we face in humanity, philosophical issues, and life's choices. And though it is set in a war context as a major epic, it really is a narrative for the abstract in all traditions and all situations. It wrestles with the great questions of who we are, how we should live our lives, and how we should act in our world. It delves into purpose, the question of what is our purpose? Who are we really? What is our self-identity? What is our soul? How do we achieve enlightenment? And Lord Krishna really is the hero of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna is the complete incarnation of Vishnu. As I said earlier, Krishna is the only begotten son of Vishnu. And Krishna is the Christ. Many of you know, because I've shared this before, that the very word Krishna is the Sanskrit derivation of Krishna, which is where we get the word Christos, or Christ. It literally means the light of God. So who was Arjuna arguing with? Himself. Where were the two armies? They were inside of him. And Krishna, with whom he was speaking, was his own Christ self. Some interesting stories about these characters. Krishna, the deity Krishna, is I did not advance the slide. There we go. Krishna is the only deity whose birthday is celebrated in Hinduism. He's also known as Govinda or Mukunda, and oftentimes he's portrayed as an infant who is born in a stable in the wilderness. He is also portrayed as a young man who goes to be blessed by a prophet. And he then, after he is blessed, he goes into the wilderness where he meditates for 40 years before he comes out and becomes a teacher. And he is shown throughout these stories as teaching on the sides of hills and on the shores of seas, teaching to the masses. And he has followers, many of whom are women. And the women have equal status with the men. There are stories of him traveling throughout India, teaching and healing and feeding the multitudes. And he was only seen as a prophet until the Middle Ages, when he became deified. Isn't that interesting? Because Jesus was not considered God itself until really the Middle Ages by the church. There are stories in Hinduism. The Hindu tradition says that he was told that he would die when he was 36 years old. And when he was told this, he is recorded as saying, not my will, but your will be done. And that when he died, he released his body and ascended into heaven. And the stories say that he returns at various times in various incarnations to teach. And the final synchronicity is, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is recorded that he sits at the right hand of Vishnu. Wow. These stories predate Christianity. They predate Judaism. So we see this tie, this connection between the world's great religions. These stories are universal, and they are important because they touch something inside of us. They are archetypal. We draw so much in unity from Hinduism. Our practice, one of the more popular practices in unity is yoga. It's a big part of unity. It comes from Eastern tradition, from Hinduism and Buddhism. Many Unitics are vegetarians. Charles and Myrtle were vegetarians. It comes from Hinduism. The practice of meditation comes from Hinduism. Many of us believe in reincarnation. We don't have a dogma about the afterlife. You can believe what you want. But I would say a good percentage, over 90% of Unitics, when we think about an afterlife, we believe in reincarnation. We really focus on the here and now. Hinduism influenced even early American Christianity. Ralph Waldo Emerson gave a speech at the Harvard School of Divinity, and he said this: "In all nations there are minds which incline to dwell in the conception of the fundamental unity." That's unity of all life, not unity us. "This tendency finds its highest expression in the sacred writings of the East, and chiefly in the Indian scriptures, in the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vishnu Purana. I once owned a magnificent day to the Bhagavad Gita. It was the first of books. It was as if an empire spoke to us, nothing small or unworthy, but large, serene, consistent, the voice of an old intelligence, which in another age and climate had pondered and thus disposed of the same questions which exercise us." These writings, these scriptures influenced Henry David Thoreau, Phineas Quimby, Mary Baker Eddy, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, Deepak Chopra. Because the basic philosophy of Hinduism is that spirit is the totality of real things. Spirit is the completion of all things. And that true human selfhood is divine rather than sinful. It is a divine force for good. One of the other principles of Hinduism is that sickness originates in the mind, and positive thinking brings about healing. The opening line of the Isha Upanishad in Sanskrit is this: Ishavashyam ida sarvam. Translated into English, means one presence, one power. We say it all the time. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God. And we add the good omnipotent. The Hindus say Ishya Vashyam Ida Sarvam. One presence, one power. So that one presence, that one power is the cosmology of Hinduism, the union of all beings into one. To us in the West, it has sound, a name, and that sound and name that we have for it in the West, interestingly enough, is the name that God said Moses should use for him. In Hebrew, the word for God that was given to Moses when Moses encountered God at the burning bush, is Eya Ashareya. We say it translates to I am that I am. Closer is I am what I am. But what most people don't realize is that the language that was used by Moses at that time was not Hebrew. It was Midian. And that same Eya Ashareya in Midian was Yom Ashara Yom. And if you look up the word Yom, it is this: Om. Can you feel the power? God's name is Om. We say Om in the West, but it's really A-U-M, Om. And if you look at that symbol, have you ever really contemplated the Om symbol? To us in the West, it looks like a number 3, with something protruding out of its belly. It's the Trinity, giving birth to awakening. So to all of you, I say Om, Namaste, Namaskar. Aho.
Wow, you guys. I am really wishing that we could all put our notes together from these great lessons that Gordon shares with us and like come up with a workbook or something, because we all know that different pieces jump out at us differently. So how cool it would be to really compare notes. If you want to start that process, actually drop in the chat one of your ahas from today's lesson. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many.
I have to share a chat from the Facebook page here. Michael Crow put, hotty, read all about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you, Gordon.
You're welcome.
The amount of research that you do, the sharing, and you make it so interesting for us. I'm inspired to go look at each of these gods and learn more. And
I would encourage you, if you have never read the Bhagavad Gita,
yeah,
it's such a beautiful work of art. You can't really even begin to describe it.
Yeah, I will. I'll check it out, definitely. Oh, fun. Thank you, thank you. We are off and running on this series about all the many different ways to God. And we want to welcome our visitors. If you're dropping by, you're wondering, oh my gosh, how do I get more of this? All you have to do is keep checking out our Facebook page. Check out the website, unityofjoplin.org. Call Michael at the office and say, whoa, what can you recommend for me? Can you send me more information? We've got your back. And we would love to have you coming back each Sunday, checking in for the Rev's Ramblings each evening, Monday through Saturday at 8 o'clock, right here on Facebook Live. Lots of ways to get involved. We welcome all of you. So thank you for visiting today. We also hold sacred our children. They are our future, and so we want to bless them today. And I think we have Kelsey and Sam with us, but we also have our inner child. So let's bless all of us, all of them, as we hold the vision of our children becoming our vibrant future. Children, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. And we do. That's the truth. Oh, deep breath. Wonderful. That felt really good. And now, to feel even better, let's come together for the singing of our peace song and our prayer of protection.
Give me a second. I'm working on it.
Maybe.
I'm working on it. Oh. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Just imagine we are getting in a circle. That's what we're doing right now, is getting in our closing circle. It's not letting me see the controls again.
Yeah, you're hooked up from this end.
Yeah, but it's not letting me advance it. There we go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my song now. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God